Hello. Finally here. Hello guys, how you doing? Hope you guys having a good day. Hello, hello. How's your guys' Sunday so far? Finally here. Hi Enzo. There we go. Hello everybody. I have finally made it. How you guys doing? Hope you guys having a good day. I am still like, goddamn, my sleep is so all over the place still. It's crazy, but we're here today, right? I started sneaking onto a watch last night. I was just checking on a few things. I didn't really play a match. I was just like logging on to check a few things. But yeah. Boo. It'd be like that. Maybe I'll play again eventually, who knows. But for now, yeah, my sleep is still so like weirdly all over the place. Hi Slothy. I literally woke up like 2 or 3 hours before the stream. And I still feel tired. But you know, we gotta do reading today. We might keep it a bit shorter afterwards, you know, after the reading. Maybe I'll do a little bit of Celeste and then well, I'm gonna hop off. But you know, do what I can. Let's see actually how long. Let's do Celeste progress. I almost have all the strawberries. I'm at like, I think 140 out of 175. I need to do 8 B-side, all of the C-sides, and about 80% of chapter 9. And I think if I do Celeste today, I might just do 8 B-side, because I heard it's super annoying and super bad and could probably take me a while. And then maybe next time we can tackle the C-sides. I'm probably gonna do the strawberries off stream, because it's just me backtracking through the levels, you know, looking up a guide, watching where the strawberries are, how to get them. It's nothing like exciting to watch. But yeah, 8B might be today, and then next stream might be all the C-sides, and hopefully continuing with 9, with chapter 9. Cheating off stream, just for the strawberries, Enzo. Hi Crystal. Hi Oeas. How you guys doing? Let me see how long today's book is gonna be, how many pages. So we're gonna start at page 65, and from 65 we go all the way to, oh my god, oh god. Oh god. From 65 it go. Can it stop? I'm gonna pull in Nefa and I'm saving for Varka and Flints. Ooh. I don't know if I want to get a Nefa just yet. I'm not sure about a Nefa. Luna Charge. I don't want to get into it right now because it's a lot. But Luna Charge is a very complicated, very convoluted reaction. And yeah, there's gonna be a lot about that. Hi Rage, hi Angel, hope you're having a good day. What's up? But I can definitely see Vodka and Flints for you though, Slothy, that's for sure. I really like the male characters. I don't know about Luna Charge reaction, to be honest. I will wait. Yeah, Nefa in itself, she's gonna be fine. She's pretty good. Luna Charge is very dependent in the way of, is the character, is the DPS going to be doing Luna Charge damage through talents or just the reaction? Because if it's talent damage, there's a potential for it being super broken. If it's just reaction stuff and it doesn't get extra like talent scaling, then it's kind of meh. It really depends, because the way Luna Charge is calculated is just like, if you thought that like Dendro was confusing with its different reactions and how they all work, especially like with what's it called, with like aggravate and spread and all that. Oh, just you wait when just you wait until Luna Charge comes around. Hi Rose, how are you doing? I hope you're having a good day. So I was, oh, Abby as well. Hello. I was trying to check. Oh, okay. So guys, we have about another 60 pages today under flood warning. So oh no, I hope you stay safe, Rose. Please stay safe. Okay guys, so we're going from page 65 to page 120 today. Woo. All right, but yeah, so again, I don't want to get too in depth right now on how Luna Charge really is calculated, because I'd be here for a while, guys. It's fucking crazy. You don't want to talk about that right now. But I would assume that like Flints is probably gonna be like a Luna Charge based DPS if he's gonna be Electro, and he might be pretty strong if the way Luna Charge works is gonna work the way I think. Other than that, Varka looks interesting. I'm very much looking forward to Nefer and Lauma, because both apparently are gonna be Dendro. And I really like their design. Varka's voice is so handsome. Yeah, I've heard it. It's pretty good for sure. We'll be fine. Please, Rose. Please stay safe. I don't have any extra DPS right now. I can't wait for Flints. Yeah, Flints looks cool. I like his design. What I am obviously most excited about when it comes to like not cry stuff is okay. All right. I think, yeah, it's lower. Rose, shut up. You are not ugly. Don't say that. Stream just can't handle all the awesomeness that is in chat right now. But yeah, like Notcry is going to be cool. The characters look really, really fun. Obviously, I am very much excited for the lore because from what people have said, Notcry is going to be deeply rooted in Tevat's ancient history with the dragon civilization and the three moon sisters and everything like that. So, oh boy. Like always, it's amazing. It's just too cool. You guys are all amazing. Abby, shut up. You're not ugly as well. None of you guys are. But yeah, Slothy, good luck on getting Nefa and Varka, that's for sure. I will probably... You know, my first thoughts were like, when I saw the lineup for the second half of the banner next update, being Mualani and Chaska, the only two Natlan DPS I'm actually considering pulling, both of them on the same fucking side. I was first like, maybe, you know, I'll let fate decide who I pull. By pulling on a weapon banner first and see which of the two weapons I get, and then I pull for the character based on the weapon I get. It would be a funny thing I could do, you know, like being like, oh, I got Chaska's weapon, I'll pull Chaska, you know. Or like, oh, I got Mualani's weapon, I'm gonna pull Mualani. The thing is though, I was then thinking like, wait, I have this hydro damage goblet with crit damage on it and 100 EM. That's like the perfect Mualani piece. I could pull for Mualani if I wanted to at that point. So we'll see. I'm gonna try to pull for Mualani, I feel. I'm not sure if I'm gonna go for the weapon, but I'm gonna go for Mualani. I'm at like 50, 60 PD with guaranteed, so it's a high chance I can get her. Especially with the summer event coming around and everything, and them being second half, I have the entire update worth of saving, because I am not gonna be pulling on Nefa or Sitlali. So I have the entire update to save. You gave me a wonderful... Exactly! Because it's not bad. Shut the fuck up. And, yeah, but, I'm very much looking forward to the story of Notcry and everything we're going to be getting there. I'm interested to see what they're going to be doing as well, because we are getting parts of the Marjavari next update, but only a small bit, which adds a new boss, which is another creation of Reindaughter. But I did not expect the enemy, like the monster, to look like it does, like the way it does, because the name and everything, according to what I've heard, like the Bakunawa is based on Filipino mythology and is supposed to be a moon-eating serpent, and it kind of just looks like an overgrown Bishop in Genshin, which is kind of disappointing. It's just a big overgrown Bishop, but apparently it was also created by Reindaughter, so we'll see what lore implications are there. Marjavari in general is going to be a very interesting area that we're going to be getting more and more through updates. I'm very... It's very cool. That's the way the book begins. No worries, Crystal. Hope you have a lovely day. Maybe I'll see you later. I'm very much looking forward to the fact that the summer region we're getting next update, the spring resort, or like the summer resort, it's gonna be a permanent addition to Natlan, and it's gonna be finally the final region that gives us the last like sigils and pyroculi, so that I can finally max out my statue and tablet. Very interesting decision to make the summer location a permanent thing, because so far they have never done that. Simulanka wasn't, the Bottled Realm wasn't, the two Golden Apple Archipelagos weren't. So seeing the newest one is gonna be permanent is gonna be really interesting. I'm very much looking forward to exploring the new summer event, especially seeing Venti appear there as well, which is kind of out of the blue. And it's free to play, which is amazing for me. Yeah, like Genshin is really putting out everything. The only thing, obviously, when it comes to Genshin that has been recently been a bit of a downwards trend for me is the way they handle their balancing and their power creep, because that's getting a bit out of hand, I'd say. But I mean, it's the inevitability of gacha games where at some point they have to, like, it will power creep so they can sell new characters. Like, the story, the regions, the lore, it's been on a fucking roll right now. The Dainslift quest, Paralogism before that, the next quest, Nodcry, everything we're getting with that is gonna be fucking insane. The characters and the power creep, on the other hand, yeah, like Mawika, Skirk, still a bit iffy on Luna Charged in and of itself. Nefa's gonna be good, and she looks cool, but Luna Charged, again, I don't want to get into it right now. There's a lot about it. If I want to go into detail right now how that reaction works, we'll be sitting here for like half an hour just trying to explain how it works, because it's very weird and complicated. Their story and lore stuff and quality of life improvements came from finally listening to players' feedback, but the power creep, that's something they're open. Yeah. I mean, even then, like, some of the quality of life changes felt a bit random. Like, when they posted the latest death discussion, and they mentioned something about like time skip button, I was like, oh my god, skip button, finally we have a skip button. We get that. We don't get a dialogue skip button next update. Maybe in 6.0, but not in 5.8. It's not a dialogue skip. So many people got baited by that. It's not dialogue skip. It's a button that makes, when you have a quest where you have to like wait for a specific time, you can now just immediately skip to that time ahead. That's what that is. Nothing else. No dialogue skip. It's just when it says like, oh wait, like tomorrow 18, it'll just, you press the button and it just skips to that time. It's not dialogue skip. It's dumb. But yeah, just like you got baited for it, like half the population on Twitter was baited by that too, don't worry. And they were like, oh my god, skip button, skip button, skip button, skip button, oh my god, are we finally getting a skip button? No, we are not getting a skip button. We are not getting a skip button. I do like the changes they did for the local specialties, that you can now see which characters have a passive that could show them on the map, on the mini map as well. That is a really nice little quality of life addition. I don't know how to feel about the artifact changes with like the highlighting. I mean, I don't really pay much attention to those systems in general. I still handle artifacts as I've always handled them, but I could see it be kind of nice. But yeah, I wish we would finally get a skip button. Like, I mean, Honkai is implementing a skip button soon. The current update has a skip button for like all of the new quests that got added with the update and everything ahead. But they will get a skip button for even older quests and like 1 or 2 patches. So it's Honkai is getting a skip button before Genshin, guys, and Honkai has been out like not as long as Genshin is. Keep that in mind. ZZZ has a skip button from the get-go as well. Like ZZZ, you can just skip story and cutscenes as well. But yeah, maybe one day, maybe the big 6.0 Not Cry patch will give us a skip button. No, you can't. I thought there was. I think there was in the like in the beginning quests. You can definitely skip through it. I'm very sure I was able to like skip through shit. But you know, whenever we're gonna be at the end of 5.8, we're gonna have the big 6.0 live stream, which hopefully is gonna be at a time where I can also, you know, do a watch along stream. You know, we can watch it together, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll see what we get from what I've heard. Obviously, new region, new free 4-star, just like we got Kachina for free in Notland, just like we got Lynette in Fontaine, Kale in Sumeru. We're going to get a 4-star character for free in 6.0 Notcry. And that's, from what I've heard, is going to be Aino, the one that created Inefa. The little like pink-haired girl with the long sleeves. She's gonna be the free 4-star, and she's gonna be our first Hydro Claymore character. We don't know anything about her kit yet, but that's all we know so far. She's gonna be the free 4-star Hydro Claymore. Which also, the new Claymore we're getting next update from the summer event is gonna be one of her best weapons. Because that Claymore is actually kind of busted on the characters that it works on. Which, right now, without Notcry, we have like maybe one character that could utilize it. Isn't Eula Claymore? But Eula is Cryo, not Hydro. Then again, she's mostly physical damage, but she's a Cryo, not a Hydro character. We do not have a single Hydro Claymore character in the game. That is the only element and weapon combo we do not have in the game yet. Hydro Claymore. Alright, Slothy, get some good rests. I hope you take care of yourself. Alright. Alright, let's Shall we start with the book for today? Because we got like another 60, almost 60 pages to go through, guys. We got like 55 pages to go through today. Are you guys ready? So we're gonna start today with Act 2, Midnight. And Part 8, called Gifts for the Christ Child. We're jumping 10 years in the past again. Actually, let me wait, because we have some ads running right now. We're gonna do it after the ads. Oh no, I closed my music. Close my music. What am I doing? I'm so stupid. There we go. I'm pulling it back up, guys. Don't you worry. Oh, my God, more ads. There we go. All right. Still got the ads going. Oh my God. All right. You guys back? Welcome back, everybody. Ads should be over. We shall start with the book for today, then. Again, Act 2 is called Midnight. Part 8, Gifts for the Christ Child. We're jumping back 10 years in the past. Again, because we're always like jumping back and forth. And the quote for this one says, "In the windowless tomb of a blind mother, in the dead of night, under the feeble rays of a lamp in an alabaster globe, a girl came into the darkness with a wail." From George MacDonald, The History of Photogen and Nycteris. All right. We shall start then with the book for today. We got 55 pages again to go through today. So, yeah. Got a bunch of work. Devon thought she must be dying. Every contraction brought worse agony, and she didn't understand how this could possibly go on and on. Yet it did. A handful of Winterfield women flitted around as she screamed into her pillows from pain, and then cried from the shame of screaming. Writhing and moaning was for weak women, wasn't it? Not strong, young, 6-foot-tall book-eater brides. Birth was supposed to be her whole reason d'être. After all. Raison d'être. Okay. 6 hours into labor, and Luton came by, barking disgruntled orders for someone to give that girl something before she makes us deaf. "She can't help it," Gailey said, hand on Devon's head. "The infant is back to back." "What?" Devon gasped. "What?" Luton echoed. "Do we need external intervention? Surgery or It's not a problem," Gailey assured her. "Just a long and painful labor." That sounded like an enormous fucking problem to Devon, but she didn't have enough air left over to complain. Luton did, however. Long? You mean this will be 4 hours? Then give her a sodding injection. For God's sakes, if I have to sit through another minute of this howling, I will lose my bloody sanity. It's supposed to be Christmas Eve. I want some peace. Man, what a great husband, right, guys? Amazing husband. Wife is in pain, in labor, and he's like, can we get something to shut her up? Fuck that guy. Okay. The women objected with hissing, angry statements she couldn't hear. Pain was part of book eater tradition. Trauma made it more difficult for mother and child to bond, which in turn made it easier for mother and child to be separated. But Luton's will won out, as did his desire for a quiet Christmas Eve. A pinprick Devon barely even felt, stabbing into her thigh. He watched with narrowed eyes and fingers in his ears. This man who was supposedly her husband. She resented him for treating her with such indifference, and also simultaneously wanted to collapse at his feet to sob with gratitude. Sleepiness took hold as the dimorphin kicked in. Pain still prevailed, but more distantly, the echo of something she hated instead of agony she was immersed in. It'll wear off. Gaily seemed to be speaking from the other end of the very long, echoing tunnel. Then give it to her again when it does. Some of us have work to do. He left with footsteps that seemed to reverberate. His voice had an echo too. Everything was humming. Devon felt like a quivering string. The rest of the birth slipped through gasps of memory. She could index her brain for any sentence in every book she'd ever eaten, but thinking back on those remaining hours summoned up only fragments of sensation and flashes of garbled conversation. The diamorphin made her sick to her stomach. It also seemed to swallow the minutes, skipping erratically through the hours. Without warning, the pain ceased abruptly. No more contractions, no more pushing. She gazed at the ceiling above her bed, stunned to be alive and seething with betrayal because fairy tales had never described birth. Women buzzed around her, talking about cords and cutting on the baby. Baby. She struggled to sit up. Let me see him. Not a him, said gaily and passed her the child. You have a healthy little girl, my lovely. Girl? Merry Christmas, love. Your own little Christ child. And Devon reached out with sweat-slicked arms. Yeah, it can't be, what was the kid's name that we've been interacting with now? What was her kid's name? Fucking hell. I forgot what her kid's name was. Oh, Kai. Kai was it? Right, this can't be Kai. First of all, because it's 10 years ago and Kai is 5 years old now. Okay, right. She stared, awestruck, at the writhing form with a red, crumpled face, the tiny fists and swollen cheeks. Nothing externally had changed. The galaxy still spun in vast, unknowing indifference, and the uncaring world still flowed past beyond the confines of her bedroom. But here, in that moment, the axis of Devon's personal universe tilted, and she was left teetering, off balance to the core of her being. The baby wailed, sounding like a stepped-on frog. She'll be hungry. You should nurse, my lovely. Be good for you both. It also makes sense that she's surprised that it's a girl, because book eaters are usually boys. It's very rare that a girl comes out, and I guess that's a reason we don't hear much about her daughter, which at that point should be like 10, at least 10, yeah, 9 or 10, because women are in the book eater families are being treated differently and everything. So I guess she's yeah, that sucks. Gailey came over, helping Devon sit up straight to undo her top and position the scrabbling infant, while the aunts gasped and fluttered. A girl! A girl! Such incredibly good fortune. Silence fell as the tiny thing latched, eyes drifting closed. Stillness pooled like blood, and still, Devon sat, stunned and terrified to move in case her universe tilted again. The aunts were already cleaning up, wiping blood off her legs, changing the sheets around her as best they could. Someone carried the placenta away. Yo, B, what's up? I'm a bit tired, but we're going. We got 55 pages to go through, and here we are. Your milk will be black when it comes in, Gailey said. Don't be alarmed by that. All perfectly normal. Devon just nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Perfectly normal? How could anything be normal ever again? Her life had been a series of twisted fairy tales in which she had imagined herself the princess. But this, here, living and breathing and snuffling in her arms, had more truth than all of her swallowed stories combined. She was her daughter's whole world, a realization both humbling and empowering. Devon had never been anybody's world before, had never been anything at all, in fact, except the sum of paper flesh she'd consumed without thought. Can I name her? He spoke the question to no one in particular, too dazed to remember what the protocol was. No need, Gailey said, snuffing bloodied sheets into a laundry basket. Luton has already chosen Salem. Should the child be a girl? Salem Winterfield. The syllables mushed in her mouth like rotting paper. It made her think of witch trials and women when being burned, and seemed such a heated nomen when stuck to chilly old Winterfield. I don't like that. She peered down at her daughter's soft, chubby face. It doesn't suit her at all. Don't be daft. It's a perfectly lovely name. Here, support her head better. That's right. Devon was too tired to argue, too battered and still bleeding, with a naked infant curled on her naked chest. She found Salem was sticking in her mind, whether she wished it or not. As if her daughter had been tarred irrevocably. A knock at the door, distracting her attention. Luton had arrived. He was bleary-eyed, yawning, still in a dressing gown, and Devon realized with surprise that it was half past four in the morning. She'd completely lost track of time. The tongue, Luton said, scrubbing at his face with the heels of his hand. Has anyone checked? He didn't approach, likely put off by the bloody mess all over the bed. Oh yeah, B, her fucking husband is a dick. I don't like him. He's a fucking asshole. It's like, oh, this woman is screaming everything during her labor. Can we give her something to shut up? I need to concentrate. I got work to do. It's like, dude, your wife is giving birth right now. Shut the fuck up. For a brief, exhausted moment, Devon stupidly thought they all meant her own tongue, the tongue of yours, and couldn't fathom why it would be worth mentioning. Baby's fine. No proboscis, another aunt said. She's a girl in any case, Luton. Girls can still be mind eaters. It happens, albeit rarely, he said. But I agree. She looks fine in this instance. He drew Gailey aside after that and spoke in low tones, saying something about registrars and doctors. Practicalities that needed taking care of. Gailey pursed her lips, nodding at appropriate points. Devon hugged her daughter close, both annoyed at Luton's questions and relieved at their answers. A healthy girl, yet a part of her was angry it should even matter. A mind-eater girl would not be marriage material, and that was all Luton thought about. She looked down at the snuffling lump in her arms, swamped with an unsettling mix of dread and pride. There's only 6 brides left in the whole of Britain, Faraday said. Did that make her daughter the 7th bride to be? The thought was anxiety-inducing for a multitude of reasons. Luton came over to Devon's bed, gaze still averted from the blood. You did well, Miss Fairweather. I'm glad to hear the child is a girl and healthy. I hope you will forgive me for returning to sleep, but the hour is unsociable, and I have a full schedule tomorrow. Did her husband just call her Miss Fairweather? What the fuck? Yes, of course, Devon said, fumbling for polite words. Didn't he feel it? The power, the trauma, the awe. Why hadn't the axis of his universe tilted as hers had? She debated thanking him for intervening with medication and then decided against it and bent over her daughter instead. Luton had only helped because her pain had been inconvenient to him, and now that her mind was clear of drugs and agony, Devon seized on the fact with sharp cynicism. He didn't deserve her gratitude for what was merely basic courtesy. After he left, the baby was taken away by aunts to be weighed, cleaned, and dressed. One of the aunts helped Devon to the bath, dousing her bathwater in an army of luxury products before leaving her in peace. The revelation struck Devon with the force of a speeding train as she sat, exhausted in a porcelain tub, naked and alone, and clothed in bubbles. She could not give Salem away. There was nowhere else to take this sentiment, no plan or specific goal. It was simply a truth that she felt and would not deny. Salem was hers, clunky name and all. No one had the right to separate them. Devon stepped out of the bath, dripping suds on the floor, and wrapped herself in a bathrobe. She limped back into the freshly changed bedroom and slithered between the covers, whispering her thanks as one of the aunts laid Salem next to her. Sleep, Gailey said, tucking the covers around them both. We'll have someone stay with you these first few nights. No need to worry about rolling on a child in your sleep. Can I raise her? Devon asked. Salem's tiny hands curled around her adult fingers, grasping tight. They held each other fast. Can stay here longer. I don't mind. Gailey squeezed the pillows roughly, plumping them up. That's not how it works. Why not? Why can't it be? Oh, my lovely. Gailey put a hand on Devon's head, as if she were a dog. Listen to me, and carefully. No one gets more than 3 years to nurse the child, and after that all women must go on to their next wedding. Marriages are carefully negotiated to limit inbreeding. I know, Devon said, and then realized she was holding the baby too tightly when Salem started to cry. I know the terms of my contract. I understand our struggles with fertility, she said calmer. But I thought... No, said Gailey. Seeing Devon's expression, her own softened a little. All mother brides experience this. It is completely normal and we all have been through it, including me. You've done this? It shouldn't surprise her because of course all women could have children had done so. All women who could have children had done so. All the same, Devon struggled to picture Gailey as young, wedded, pregnant, and nursing. Specifically, she couldn't fathom how someone could go through the same experience yet still advocate for it as other family women seem to. Naturally, dear. Gailey folded her hands one atop the other. As I was saying, we all struggle with the leaving. Your mother probably struggled. But in the blink of an eye, your baby will be grown up and getting wedded. Soon enough, she'll have children of her own. When she does, think of how happy you'll be to have scions in another house. A lineage of your flesh. Is that not a beautiful thing? Devon had no fucking idea what to say to that. Trust the process. Gailey went on with a tired expression. After 3 years, you'll be dying to get away from the babe. I certainly was. She quavered a little. The other aunts looked at each other, saying nothing. What? No, I won't. Did they think she was stupid? Easily distracted, easily put off? I want to stay with her. The older woman frowned, face pulled into severe lines. Why don't we put a plan in place? Schedule time away from your daughter. Some mother brides to do. Some mother brides do that. Perhaps to not bond so much. Time away? Devon struggled to keep the panic out of her voice. We don't need any time apart. We'll talk about that another time. Get some rest for now, my lovely. Gailey was already retreating from the room with slumped shoulders toward her own quarters. In fairness to the woman, she was probably exhausted too. It's been a long labor for everyone. Devon was willing to forgive that and tired enough to take the advice about sleeping. She drifted off, Salem curled in the crook of her arm. But Devon was rather less forgiving when Gailey came back 10 hours later, a calculating look in her eye. You're showing all the warning signs of an overbonded mother, Gailey told her. This may seem harsh, but I think you should agree to an early intervention. That's ridiculous. I'm not agreeing to such thing. Gailey waved the other aunts over. 3 women held her down, while another pried Salem out of her fingers. Devon was 2 days past the post-birth, still bleeding, unable to stop them or put up any resistance beyond shrieking. What the fuck? They actually just took her fucking baby away. What the hell? Looks really good. I'm liking it so far. Enjoy yourself, said one of the older women. Relax and get some good rest. Fuck you! Her words bounced limply off their retreating backs, landing no true blows. Devon lay in bed for the next few hours, too angry to cry, consumed with shame and failure. Follow the rules, toe the line, live the good life. That's what she had been taught all her life. But Devon didn't want a good life. She wanted her daughter, no more and no less. The Knight Commander's promise all those years ago that bad things only happen to those who broke rules felt like a hollow echo. She'd been good. She'd obeyed, yet Salem was still being taken away. It was unfair, and something in her, a rebelliousness long dormant and buried by the shock of Ramsay's punishment, stirred in her chest. When she felt stronger, she got out of bed and flung the books and cups of ink tea that they brought. Salem, lovely Salem, was every bit as fierce. Those piercing wails could be heard across the house. Devon paused in her destruction to kneel by the locked door, listening with anguished satisfaction until at last her daughter was grudgingly brought back. "I didn't agree," she said, voice cracked, but Gailey only shook her head. They came back the next day to do it again. As before, two women tried to hold down a swearing, spitting Devon. She was stronger today, fought like a badger and shrieked like a banshee until her throat went raw. They had almost finished disentangling Salem from Devon's grasp when Luton strode into the room, face red and tie crooked. "The hell are you doing?" He scowled at a hyperventilating Devon, who took advantage of the distraction to snatch her child back. Salem nuzzled frantically, and Devon almost tore her dress trying to pull her top down to nurse the child. Gailey puffed up. "This is woman's business." "On the contrary, this is my house, and therefore this is also my business." Luton stared her down. His sister cringed back, instantly deflated. "I ask again, what are you doing?" "Luton, she was showing classic signs of being overly bonded, so I proposed short periods of trial separation. It's a technique that has worked for other brides in other houses." "Well, it clearly isn't working here. My God, I can't take a piss without having to listen to an infant wailing or a girl crying." Devon wanted to snarl that she hadn't cried a tear, not since the birth. Shrieking with rage was entirely different. Instead, she locked her jaw shut. However selfish his motives, Luton was at least de facto on her side. "If we remain firm, it will prevent a host of problems for everyone in the long run." "Problems?" Luton looked at Devon, who cradled a nursing Salem close. "Right now, the girl is happy, the baby's happy, which means I do not have a headache. Where's the problem? Why distress them?" "My concern is when they need to be separated. When we need to separate them, we will do so," he said, a wrinkle of irritation between his brows. "I see no value in preemptively causing upset. If Devon is uncooperative, we can hardly apply for a witness. And then the baby will starve. Do what is needed to make mother and child happy for now. You can manage that, can't you?" Gailey swallowed, face darkening. She exchanged glances with the other aunts. "Glad that's agreed." Luton strode back out. Devon curled around her daughter and watched him go, heart turning to a ball of spikes inside her chest, even as she broke into a sweat from sheer relief. 3 years was enough to change their minds, and she could do exactly that. No one was taking Salem away from her. And that's the end of part 8. That whole family shit is fucked up. In general, their whole like policy about it, it's just ridiculous. Hi Lily. Thank you for the 100 bids. Oh my fucking god. Hope you're having a good day, Lily. Hope you can get some nice rest now after your 12-hour stream. But also, what the fuck? All right. Now we're on to part 9, which is called the 10:15 to Edinburgh. You just took the kid like that, though. Yeah. The thing is, from what we've learned in the book eater families, it's very rare to give birth to women. So women are being basically cradled and isolated and raised separately from everybody else. And then they're basically, because there's multiple book eater families throughout Britain, and they're basically like, okay, so you are now like 18, you can now have a child, you are now being wedded off to another book eater family, have a kid with them, and then go on to the next one. And I think every book eater woman can have 2 kids basically before they get infertile. So it's like, okay, you give birth there, make the baby, live there for a bit, go to the next family, make another baby, and then you live your life basically, which already is fucked up. Have the woman make her own decisions. And the fact that she gave birth to a girl, I guess, makes it even worse now. But we also know her second child, Kai, which is a bigger part in the story, a boy she had 5 years ago, who's in the present day as a 5-year-old. It's a bit it's a bit special in the way that he's not a book eater, he's a mind eater who do not really have a good reputation in these families. Right. So every part here starts off with a quote, either of an actual piece of literature or maybe even just I don't know if this is actually also an actual piece of literature, but this is a character that's also in the book. But the quote is, in previous eras, mind eaters were mostly killed at birth. That changed in the 1920s when the patriarch of the Ravenscar Manor took it upon himself to create a cure for one of his sons, who had been born a mind eater. Whether he did it so out of love or as a patriarchal realization that there was power and money to be had from such a venture is a matter of speculation. All we know is that some 25 years later, he eventually succeeded in creating a prototype of the drug we now call Redemption. And the 6 families were changed forever. A quote by Amaranta Patel on his article, Paper and Flesh, A Secret History. All right, so now we're in present day. Not the previous one was 10 years ago. In the alley below Devon's flat, a lone dragon walked up the detritus-strewn pavement. A detritus-strewn pavement, crossing from one end of the alley to the other. So dragons are actually mind eaters that are basically being controlled by the families to do their bidding. They just call them dragons. They're being controlled with the drug and everything like that. Devon dropped to a crouch behind a railing of her flat steps. They're learning my methods. The knights must have gone straight to check the shelters this time. Shelters? Hester crouched at her side, a still smoldering cigarette between her fingers. Thank you for the lurk, Angel. I appreciate it. I leave Kai's victims. Humans mostly ignore their impoverished, so almost no one tips off the police. True, they're as cruel as we are in their own. Hester held up a compact mirror, angling it to see around the railing of the steps. He's gone, for now. A little close for comfort. Devon checked her watch. 9:50 p.m. The mobile phone was burning. A fugitive hole in her pocket. A figurative hole in her pocket. If she was going to flee to the Ravenscars tonight, that she needed to let him know. Aloud. She said, "Did you drive down here? Is there a car we can take?" "Sadly, no. A friend drove me to the city limits a couple of days ago and dropped me off." "Huh. Curious choice. Why not hang around?" "In case this was a family trap and the city was full of knights," Hester added reluctantly. "I didn't realize we'd be leaving under such duress like this." Fair enough. Fair enough. I guess we're taking the train then." "Train?" "With you, to see Killock Ravenscar." "I see." Hester stubbed out her vanilla cigarette on the filthy brickwork of the and flicked it off to the side. "Not that I'm complaining, but why the change of heart? I thought you didn't trust me." "It's not my decision, is it? Kai needs your cure, I can't deny that. If I want a shot at giving him a free and happy life, then I need redemption and a path to safety." Devon stalked back into the flat. "Start packing." "What's happening?" Kai said. "Are we still leaving?" "Yes." She grabbed her suitcase by the wall and took it into the bathroom. Into the bedroom. "Grab your Game Boy, please." "No, put it in my messenger bag. There won't be room in the case." On top of the clothes, she squashed down the handful of old fairy tale books she still owned. The History of Photogen and Nycteris, The King of Elfin's Daughter, and Princess Furball. All right. He unzipped the messenger bag and tucked his console inside. Important things stayed in there, like their 20-odd grand in cash, an emergency book to snack on, and her mobile. And now, the Game Boy, which gave his life continuity. Something about the same levels, the same challenges held his attention despite all the disparate feeds he consumed. "Can I help?" Hester said, still hovering near the front door. "Thanks, but I'm already done." Devon slammed the suitcase shut on her mere possessions. "I need the toilet before we leave." She also needed a phone call before they left. We're in rather a hurry. I'll be quick." Devon escaped into the bathroom before any other objections could be raised. She sat on the seat, because she did need to go, and dug out her mobile phone from her coat pocket. Her list of recently called had only 4 contacts in it. She selected a particular number and pressed the call button. At times like these, Devon intensely disliked her inability to write or even text. If not for that, she'd be able to text discreetly instead of having to do these awkward calls where she might be overheard. 3 rings, followed by the stillness that came from someone picking up but not speaking. Because it wasn't safe to talk, Devon pressed the asterisk key in rapid succession. On her end, the phone was perfectly silent, but for her listener, they would hear the sound of a key dial arranged into longer and shorter beeps as she converted the phrase, "Change of plan, sit tight for more info," into a string of Morse code. And then they actually have the Morse code here as well, but I'm not gonna read that out. She waited a tense few seconds, receiver to her ear, for a series of return beeps to ping down the line. Roger that. Are you done yet? Hester called through the door. Devon covered the mobile's mic with her thumb. Keep your shirt on. Not enough time to get in touch with the other contact. She'd just have to go with Hester for now and get in contact later. Devon hit the flush, yanked up her jeans, then closed the mobile and washed her hands before stepping out. I'm ready. Hard enough to keep her coded conversations secret from Kai, and now she'd have to avoid Hester too. She felt the start of a stress headache in her temples. They slipped down the stairs in a tight group of 3, Hester leading the way with Devon following, her small suitcase and messenger bag slung across one shoulder. Kai stuck close to her side as they left without a backward glance. All homes looked the same when abandoned. But tight for time. Hester had one hand stuffed into her purse, and Devon wondered what weapon she had hidden in there. Give me a shout if something catches your eye. The night they walked beneath was not the night Devon had stepped into a couple of hours before. Sobriety drew sharp the lines of every building, and the temperature had dropped colder. The sidewalks were slowly thinning of people. Some were distant. Clusters of revelers shouted and cheered on the eve of Christmas. Kai tugged his lip anxiously. What happens if we meet a dragon or a knight on the way to the train station? Hester shortened her purse strap so that the bag was close against her body. Then we run and hope to shake them in the station crowds. St. Mary's Cathedral came into view as they segued from St. James Boulevard into Neville Street, its solitary bell tower thrown tall against the dark winter sky. They were not far from the train station, only 2 blocks away on the other side of the road. This would have been easier and less dangerous if we'd left sooner, Devon said, scanning the crowd with narrowed eyes. I could have met you hours ago if you'd wanted. I had no idea it was so urgent. The other woman's glasses were misting up from her own breath as she spoke. Besides, you're the one who dossed about in a pub for an hour. Well, you weren't exactly in a hurry too, Devon began, the words dying in her throat. 2 men were standing on a wide courtyard steps that led up to St. Mary's Cathedral, their backs toward her. The first man was a dragon, rendered faceless by his helmet. The second man had the same dark hair as Devon, the same slant to his shoulders, but a little older and taller and broader. Wearing a pressed suit with his hair combed back neatly. He half turned and she caught sight of a lapel pin, shaped like a tiny silver tree, which pierced his collar and nailed in its place. Ramsay Fairweather, now a family knight. Her brother and friend, her enemy and hunter. Of course it's fucking Ramsay! No! The second man was one she'd almost met and knew to name. Eland, a friend of Ramsay's. Also a knight. She wasn't surprised to see them. This was the encounter that she'd been expecting, even waiting for. The knights were nothing if not reliable and predictable. Still, this particular timing was inconvenient as all hell. Hester slowed her pace. What's wrong? Night's ahead, 10 o'clock, Devon said. Stay calm. Hester swiveled to the right toward the road, completely cool and unfazed. She was a veteran at this. Let's cross the street, see if we can pass them by. They'll see us, Kai whispered. If they look this way. Keep your head down and don't panic. Devon took her own advice, a curious kind of excitement stealing over her. After so many days of drab repetition, she was almost relieved to have something happen. They closed the distance to the station with rapid steps, crossing a road nearly devoid of traffic. Devon keeping her head down and Hester keeping her collar up. For a moment it seemed they might slip past simply by crossing the street when a taxi pulled up to the nearby curb. A group of drunken young men spilled out. One of them tripped over the curb and pinwheeled like a clown while the rest broke into loud, horsey laughter. Ramsey turned automatically at the noise and saw them at once. His form stiffened, and the dragoness at his side swiveled around in a sharp, jerking motion, as if someone had pulled an invisible string to whip him tautly in their direction. Eland followed his gaze, eyes widening. "Fuck," said Kai. "What's your bloody mouth?" Devon caught him by the wrist and started running. Chilly night air slapped her face from the speed of her jaunt. Hester also broke into a run, keeping pace. The sidewalk had grown slick with ice as the temperature had continued dropping through the evening, and her cheap boots skidded on gum-scab pavements, too clunky for efficient running. Devon kicked them off in a fury, to the astonishment of the taxi passengers, and ran barefoot on the cold ground. Hester swore and almost tripped over the discarded boots. "But you get to swear?" Kai ran free and light in his too small shoes, and she couldn't remember the last time she'd seen him move so fluidly. They'd fled cities before, once with human police circling and once with knights on their tail, but she'd had to carry him both times. "How come I have to watch my mouth?" It took Devon a full 2 seconds to parse what he was on about. "What?" she said, shoving him beneath the arches of the station entrance. "For Christ's sake, I'm a grown-up. Swearing is my privilege." "Departures board," Hester pointed. "Find out what platform we're on. We need the next train to Edinburgh." Well, I'm 25 grown-up, so I can say bad words 25 times more than you," Kai said. "You're a grown-up when I bloody say you are. Say you are. Not a moment sooner," Devon said, fuming. Why did children always have to talk back at the worst times? Don't bother with the board. It's platform 6. Are you sure? I've eaten the train schedule. Let's go. The situation fractured into a series of moments. 4 men detached from the shadows of the station, all closing in a tight circle. 2 were knights in suits, 2 were dragons, dark tendrils of ink marking their necks. The taller of the knights pointed straight at Hester, calling out above the station noise, "A Ravenscaw!" Hester pulled a revolver from her purse and headshot all 4 men with stunning accuracy. Screams and gasps, the remaining passers-by fled or ducked for cover. Knightly bodies disintegrated as they fell, flesh growing brittle and pale, ink layers peeling away to sheaves of paper that fluttered through the station. Each hit the floor as a pile of paper-stuffed suits. "Awesome!" Kai broke into a grin. Devon was speechless. Ramsey Fairweather burst through the station entrance, accompanied by another knight and a lone dragon. He saw the crumbling forms of his colleagues and hesitated, caught off guard. Hester whirled and shot him. He ducked smoothly behind the closest pillar. The other knight ducked with him. The dragon stood uncertainly out in the open, half crouched and scowling. "Shit!" Hester snarled. The gun was empty, Devon realized. A 5-shooter only. From the safety of his covered position, Ramsey called out, "Obadiah! Dracone!" The lone dragon snarled, peeling away from cover, and sprinted forward. Devon picked up her carryall and flung it straight at him. That was a good throw, making a perfect arc through the air despite its awkward shape. The dragon didn't dodge in time, he toppled from the weight of the hefty bag that hit his face. Clothes and books scattered on the concrete as the zipper burst. "Hold tight," Devon said, and slipped an arm through each of their companions' waists. She bounded through the station with the 6-foot strides, no longer caring about looking inhuman. Nothing was going to be more conspicuous than the other woman opening fire in a public place. Right now, they simply needed to get away. "That knight is chasing us," Hester shouted into her ear while Kai said, "Dev, I think we missed the train." "Shut up, both of you." Pedestrians were meant to go up the stairs and over the footbridge to reach the platform. That would have taken too long. Companions held fast. Devon coiled her strength and leapt the gap between train platforms. She landed cleanly on the gravel that lay between both sets of tracks, rebounding up and over the platform 6, accompanied by the noise of Hester swearing and Kai's laughter. Devon pelted through the waiting room past the scattering of travelers out the other side, and then straight onto the last Christmas Eve train to Edinburgh, right as the conductor blew his whistle. And that's the end of part 9. All right. I did not expect the fucking revolver headshots. Huh. I guess they made it out, huh? Okay. Alright, let's see. Part 10. We're now jumping back 7 years in the past. The princess returns to Elfland. The quote for this one is, "She rose at once, and now Earth had lost on her the grip that it only has on material things. And the thing of dreams, and fancy and fable and fantasy, she drifted from the room." By Lord Dunsany, the King of Elfland's Daughter. I mean, we've always been jumping back and forth here as well. Every part is like, present day, 10 years ago, present day, 7 years ago, present day, whatever. So now we're 7 years ago. Salem wanted shells for her 3rd birthday. She had never been to the sea and wasn't allowed to go, but had fallen in love with the idea of waves upon beaches. Devon sought an audience with Luton in the evening, knocking politely on his study door. "Shells? Where did you get such ridiculous ideas from?" said Luton. "The girl has barely eaten books." "She's eaten The Little Mermaid." Devon cringed at his expression. "Isn't that okay? It's a classic. I grew up eating it, and I saw it on your shelves, so I thought..." "You should have checked with me first," he said sourly. "Still, I suppose there's no harm. I'll see if I can get her some shells. Anything else she wants?" For all his grumbling, Luton remained indulgent of Salem, a fact that seemed to surprise him as much as it did Devon. "No, you've given me a lot as it is. I'm grateful." He was lucky. Other mother brides had to give up their children, but over the months, Luton had listened to Devon's arguments and had seen the strong bond between herself and Salem, and agreed to give special consideration providing Devon lived with them and did not take the girl back to Fairweather Manor. Sometimes the rules could be bent. Behave, be good, toe the line, follow the rules, and the patriarchs would be good on you. In the end, that had proved true after all, to Devon's chastisement. She should have trusted that wisdom sooner. After all, it was family traditions that had gifted her Salem, a child she might not have otherwise had. A girl was a truly wonderful thing. Grateful, he echoed. A funny expression crossed his face, as if he'd swallowed a bug by mistake. She thanked him and left. Shells for Salem. Lovely little dark-haired Salem who found butterflies funny and hadn't met a tree she couldn't climb, and loved to go riding with Devon, tiny though she was. Taking the steps two at a time, Devon ran down the stairs and out into the garden populated by acacia trees and Spanish rose bushes, where her daughter was tossing pebbles into an ancient fountain. "Mom!" Salem held her arms out, and Devon scooped her up with a smile. Her daughter was a mirror of herself. Same white-shouldered build and aquiline features and dark hair. Luton had contributed nothing more than a technicality. Strangely, she had never missed having a mother till becoming one herself. With both arms around her daughter's back, Devon could, if she closed her eyes, imagine a young Amberly Blackwood from long ago, picking her up in the same way. But even then, the only face she could picture on such a figure was her own, albeit older. It was so hard to imagine a thing you had never seen. From the other end of the garden, Gailey and the rest of the aunts watched with a scowl. They'd welcomed Devon among them when she had been pregnant, but after Luton's change of heart, they no longer spoke to her. If she so much as glanced their way, they drew back. Not that Devon really cared. She had woods and streams and frost-laden gardens to explore with her child. Sometimes on foot, and sometimes on horseback, with Salem carefully bundled on the saddle with her. Let the old bats enjoy their self-inflicted isolation, stuck with their fusty quarters for most of the day. Devon set off into the cultivated orchards of Winterfield Manor, holding Salem's small hand. Luton was true to his word, arranging for a box of shells to be bought and delivered to Winterfield Manor. Devon inspected them carefully the evening before the party and packaged a lot in pastel gift paper. Salem turned 3 on Christmas Day, the ground dry and crisp with a sprinkling of frost. Devon spent the morning hanging bunting in the main dining room, and even took the time to put on a forest green chiffon dress. She had never cared much for dresses, but Salem loved pretty fabric, both wearing it and seeing it. The things you did for a child's happiness. Birthday parties had never really been big at Fairweather Manor, but the Winterfields liked celebration. The garden was filled with people, sitting and talking or wandering about. Luton even took time off his work schedule to come outside, smartly dressed, but looking ill at ease. "Thank you for coming," she said, slouching down because he hated looking short next to her. "Lemmy will be glad to see you." Luton swirled a cup of ink tea and didn't answer. He'd never used her nickname for their daughter. Salem zigzagged through the chairs before circling back around, eyes bright with joy. "There you are, Lemmy," I have a present for you. Devon held out the paper-wrapped bundle. From both of us, Luton said quickly, as if it had been his idea, not hers. But she let it slide. He had bought them after all. Salem snatched the package and poked a hole in the thin, crinkling paper, crowing with delight. Shells! Lots of shells. Devon drew the girl into her lap and helped to unwrap the rest. We can make a necklace with some of them if you want. Salem picked up the biggest shell and put it to her ear, smiling. See! Other adults came forward, along with a handful of older Winterfield children. Salem did well out of her birthday. She was plied with small gifts, mostly the usual children's picture boards that she'd recently started eating as her book teeth came in. A package of toy teacups had also arrived, courtesy of Fairweather House. Devon twinged with embarrassment on seeing the address label. She'd hardly had contact with home in her 3 years here, but Salem took so much of her time and energy, not to mention the constant, tiny tug-of-wars with Luton. She couldn't call them, since Uncle Ike did not keep a connected landline. Miss Fairweather? Devon jumped, startled to find Gailey standing in proximity. What is it? Mr. Winterfield would like to see you. Come with me, please. Gailey's expression was flat and dour. Luton? But he was just here. Devon swiveled her head, surprised to find her husband had apparently left. Can't this wait? It's the middle of our party. Won't take a moment, Gailey said stiffly. You'll be returning very soon. Fine, if I must. I don't trust this. Devon kissed the girl's hair. Go play, Lemmy. I'll be right back. Salem didn't look up as they left. She was too busy arranging shells in a neat row by size, squinting in the winter sunlight. This way, Gailey said, as if Devon didn't know the layout of Winterfield Manor by heart after all this time. Perhaps, as with so many things about Gailey, she simply operated on autopilot, speaking words and making gestures that had become as reflexive as breathing. Devon, following dutifully, resolved to never become such a robotic old woman. She took the stairs, 2 at a time, impatient to get her visit over with, and turned on the landing toward Luton's study. No, your quarters, Gailey said. Her hands were twitching. He wants to see you in there. What's this about? Devon was struck with a sudden urge to flee back to the Winter Garden, where her daughter waited. Devon, please don't argue with me today. Gailey sounded tired. I have things to do and other places to be, and it won't take long. Wait. It's the 3-year period. They're allowed to stay for 3 years with the child, and then they're supposed to leave and, get wedded over to the next person and have another child. I feel like they've let her in a false sense of security, and the fact that he's now waiting in her room probably has all of her stuff packed and is gonna send her out. I feel like that's what's gonna happen. Fine. Suit yourself. She stalked off down the hallway toward her own room. Luton Winterfield was waiting when she got there, sitting in the miniature living area that Devon shared with her daughter. He'd taken off his smart jacket and thrown it across the couch arm, A newspaper spread its heavily inked pages across his lap. Oddly, he was reading it rather than eating it. A rare sight. Hello? She spoke her greeting like her general sending a scout into hostile territory. Took your time. Luton flipped a page of his newspaper. There's a cup on the side table right next to you. Drink it, please. He wasn't actually reading, just running his fingers over the pages with agitated energy, fiddling with it. She looked to her left, inspecting the mug. What's this for? It's just tea, for God's sake. He hadn't spoken to her so sharply in over a year. Drink it and sit, won't you? I cannot abide argumentative women. Devon couldn't abide rude men. She was only 22, felt she owed him for giving her Salem, and didn't want to cause an argument. Every single day was fraught with tiny conflicts between herself and the members of the sodding family, pitching a battle might align him against her. She picked up the cup, and drank. Bitterness made her gag. What's in this? It isn't just tea, like he'd claimed. The taste of ink couldn't compensate for whatever had been put into the cup. Go wait in the bedroom, he said. We'll speak shortly. When she didn't budge, he said with visible annoyance, I will explain everything. I just require a moment to compose myself. She didn't yet know how much of a coward he was, or she'd have been more suspicious. Devon went to the adjoining room and sat on the bed, as directed. The minutes stretched by, and Luton didn't appear. She could hear the newspaper rustling, the shuffle as he occasionally moved around. That was it. He was waiting, as she was. Drowsiness set in, weighing her bones like liquid mercury. Something was very wrong. She stood up, determined to. What? She couldn't remember what needed doing. Salem was in the garden, and something was wrong. The ground came up to meet her as she crumpled to the floor. The last thing she remembered before dipping into the blackness was the sound of footsteps approaching and the touch of chilly fingers thumbing her eyelids. The confusion of movement, lights and voices, people around her, sleep that wasn't sleeping, and dreams that weren't dreams. She was a princess in a cave, a dragon roaring all around, but it was most only a car engine. Countryside flickered by like a cheap animated show. More hands, more moving. A scent she recognized. Then darkness and softness. Devon woke sometime late at night with a splitting headache, a roiling stomach, and a terrible feeling of loss. She scrubbed her eyes, battling the queasiness. This wasn't her bedroom. Or rather, it was her bedroom, but in Fairweather Manor, not Winterfield Manor. And the scent she'd caught was of heather and wet moors, rolling steeply outside her window. I fucking knew it. They just fucking drugged her and brought her back away from her kid. That's insane. That is just fucking insane. Still dressed in green chiffon, she slowly turned over. Two men were in the room, both of whom she recognized. Uncle Ike sat in a chair with legs crossed, holding a half-eaten book on a plate. The title was something in Japanese, a language she'd never eaten before and so could not read. At his side stood Ramsay Fairweather. She almost didn't recognize him. More than 10 years had passed since they'd physically met. He looked older, as one would expect, hair cut short from unruly boyish tumble into a military buzz. His features, always a trifle sharp and narrow in boyhood, reminded her now of a hatchet blade. "It's you," she said. Her head throbbed. "Hello, Bev. Been a few years, eh?" Ramsey toyed with the silver pin on his lapel. "I should call you Devon the Damon, now that you're grown." The old nickname habit filled her with a rush of warmth. "I missed you." "Still sentimental," he said, deflecting as always. "How's married life?" Marriage. Luton. Salem. She sat bolt upright. "Where's my daughter?" Ike bit a corner of his Japanese book, speaking for the first time. "At Winterfield Manor, where she belongs." His book teeth were unsheathed for eating, distorting his words. "And you've returned home at the close of your contract, where you belong." Under his breath, he added in Japanese. "Wait, what?" "Shajori, as they say." Even then, she didn't understand. "No, that isn't right. I get to stay with Salem because Luton and I reached an agreement." "Let me be direct," her uncle said between mouthfuls. "Your husband lied, princess." "Lied?" She sounded small and pathetic, even to herself. Devon looked to Ramsey for confirmation or reassurance. Her brother stifled a yawn and examined his nails. "There's a special agreement," her uncle said. 500 years of Eater tradition do not get overturned on the whims of one pampered girl. A long-suffering sigh. "Still, I wish he had not done so, since he has only made things harder in the end. But what happens under another house's roof is their affair. I suppose he thought it would be the easiest way of pacifying you. For what it's worth, I am sorry, my dear." You don't understand. It's her birthday, and I said I'd be right back." She looked pleadingly at her brother. "Won't you take me back? Why aren't you saying anything?" "Don't be so dramatic." Ramsey sounded annoyed. "Your child is weaned and 3 years of age." Uncle Ike wiped ink-stained fingers on a napkin, transferring his own now empty plate onto a side table. "The contract is over, princess. Do you understand?" Something in her was cracking, like spiderweb fractures that spread and spread. If she breathed too deeply, she'd fall to pieces. Oddly, the thing she couldn't stop thinking about was Gailey's pitying looks and incessant yet subdued anger. Not directed at her, but for her. How unkind she had been to the other women. Devon the deceived, she thought inanely. The stupid girl who was easily tricked. "Princess," Uncle Ike said again, recalling her attention. "I want to see Salem just one more time." Wait, question, how old is she? 22. Devon is 22. Her kid is 3. She said, knowing it was ridiculous to voice such a desire. "The least you can bloody do is let me say goodbye." "That tongue of yours, eh?" Uncle Ike dabbed his lips. "Lower your tone, please." Devon bit the inside of her cheek, marveling how someone she had once loved so much could become someone she hated so unreservedly. It struck her as a terrible, petrifying irony that the book eaters thought of themselves as families and yet did not value family at all. Daughters were commodities. Sons, totally expendable. Children. She had to get out of here. She had to rescue Salem. Devon launched out of bed, almost tipping over the chiffon dress she'd put on this morning for Salem's sake. Everything for Salem. She would run back to Salem and fuck everything else. Dev, stop! Ramsey sprinted after. Devon wrenched the door open and stormed down the hallway, crashing into startled uncles and nearly running into an 8-year-old child. Faraday's little boy, left here by his mother, and Devon couldn't remember his name after 4 sodding years in Winterfield Manor. She charged past him in a haze of fury. Floor-to-ceiling shelves were looming, dusty guardians, the books gleaming like endless rows of teeth and wooden mouths. Instead of going down the main stairs, she whirled through the first-floor drawing room, knocking over tables and chairs as she went in a bid to make the chase difficult. Ramsey, not far behind her, tripped on something and swore. No one told him off for using bad words. There was another passage down through the back stairwell, and it'd be easier to lose her brother on that route. When had the house become such a cramped, twisting maze, such a fearful and glooming place? Stop, for fuck's sake! Ramsey caught up to her at last as they both tore out into the front hallway, his fingers catching a fistful of towel fabric. What are you doing? Going back to Winterfield. She yanked her sleeve out of his grip, spun round, and crashed straight into Uncle Ike, who had taken the other set of stairs while she had detoured through the house until he'd come out in front of her. Devon backed away, hemmed in between the two men. Get out of my way! She was alarmed to see family members gathering in the shadows, watchful and sad. One of the aunts shook her head mournfully. Uncle Ike held up his hands. Princess. She spat. He recoiled. I'm not your princess. Princesses are bullshit. Your fairy tales are bullshit. Stop treating me like a child and use my name. Devon, Uncle Ike said warningly, in that do not argue with me tone that no longer frightened her. Because the only thing that frightened her anymore was losing her daughter. Piss on the manor, she said. I hate the shitting house and hate these books and the wedding you made me have, and I'm just trapped here with a bunch of... Devon. Bloody fucking monsters! Uncle Ike uncurled from his habitual stoop, drawing up to his full height. Young lady. She snatched up a vase from the side table and threw it at his head. He ducked sideways, astonished, stumbling against Ramsey, who staggered back from the unexpected weight. Ceramic shattered against the wall behind him. She darted around both men and through the foyer and out the house and across the driveway, heading south toward the woods, toward Birmingham, where Salem waited to be rescued, shouts and cries ringing out behind her. Devon ran. And that is the end of part 10. That was insane. Okay. What the hell? Part 11, we're back in present day. It's called Ramsey at the charge. The quote this time: when the game is going against you, stay calm and cheat. By George MacDonald Fraser, Flashman at the charge. Ramsey looked at Eland, the latter frozen with indecision. Get the dragon, get out of here, both of you! He shot to his feet. The center of the train station had become a swirling maelstrom of ink-sodden paper, courtesy of the corpses Devon's friend left behind. Passers-by were screaming, and security, the police, both, would be here any moment. Wait, Eland sounded panicked. What about Kingsley's orders? Fuck Kingsley! Get out of here! Get out before the humans arrest you! Ramsey called over one shoulder, sprinting over his sister's fast disappearing form. I'll be in touch. This whole situation was so typical of Devon. Even when they were children, she would charge ahead into the woods, into ravines, over cliff edges, and up sheer walls, never thinking of what awaited. Never giving thought to whether a tree branch might snap beneath her feet, whether gutters and pipes, not made for climbing, could hold her weight, or just whether whatever the fuck she was doing was a good idea, full stop. She didn't bloody think. And it was always fallen to him. This job of chasing her down, of bailing her out or rescuing her, ours when she got into trouble. She could have disagreed with this assessment and spun her selfishness as a choice of on his part. So stay at home then. Would have argued that she'd never forced him to participate in their escapades. Never asked you to come with me, dummy. But she thought that way because she lacked responsibility and insight. Ramsey lacked neither. It was the responsibility of men to rescue women from themselves, and men of the families did not shy from duty. Duty bade he run after her. He just wished she didn't run quite so fast. Chops, faces, and peeling paint walls flew as they bounded and sprinted into her footsteps. He stormed through it all, aggrieved by the chaos and sloppiness. Wasn't all Devon's fault, if he were being honest? In fact, his commander, Kingsley, bore the lion's share of the blame. If Ramsey had been in charge, they'd have hung back, followed at a distance. They should have tried to find out why Devon was traveling with a Ravenscar and where she was going, rather than leaping to accost the woman. But Kingsley hadn't been around to lead the men himself. Nor had he left any specific instructions other than intercept any Ravenscars you find, even though that was clearly a stupid course of action. The only Ravenscar who knew anything worthwhile was Killock himself, and capturing one of his useless siblings would only have risked scaring the booger off. Too late now. The most senior knights had panicked, acted reflexively to follow Kingsley's tentative orders, and got shot for their trouble. Now their quarry was spooked. The humans had noticed them. Disaster and mess everywhere. They'd be lucky if Killock didn't go into hiding after this. Ahead, Ramsey caught a glimpse of Devon's tall form as she flung herself and her two companions aboard the 1015. Saw as he forced his leg to pump at faster speed. How the doors to their carriage slammed shut, engine beginning to gather momentum. Hell of a jump from here to the train. He went for it anyway. Was out of options otherwise. Carriages pulled away from the station, and he leapt in a great, muscle-tearing bound. 15 feet, near enough. And it worked. He landed, hands clamping on the external handrails that bracketed the doors. Feet scrabbling for purchase on the hanging step. sweat breaking out across his skin. The 10:15 to Edinburgh departed from Newcastle Station in the darkness of a Northumbrian winter night, gathering to a pace that even a knight would have found impossible to match. Eaters were fast, but not that fast. A few seconds to breathe while his heart slowed to a reasonable beat. Feet braced firm, Ramsay wrenched the door partway open. Half squeezed, half stumbled inside, panting for exertion, relieved to have salvaged something from this mess. The last carriage was not meant for passengers, a staff-only compartment with machinery, lockers, and a broken snacks trolley. The one occupant, a long, middle-aged ticket collector, shot to his feet, pale with shock. Humans always had a kind of nervous energy that reminded Ramsay of chickens. The ticket collector fluttered at him. "Sir, passengers are not supposed..." Ramsay swung a hard punch to the temples, and the man dropped. "Nothing personal, mate." He bent over to the unconscious figure and scavenged himself a new identity. Night be gone. Ramsay shed his appearance as a snake sheds its skin, tossing aside his own clothes to don the conductor's kit. A black uniform jacket, buttons, intricately rough. Didn't fit well though. He was both leaner and broader than the man whose clothes he'd taken. Fabric pulled tight across his back, seams pinched his shoulders. Small considerations, he pushed them aside, kept dressing. The transmitter under his shirt pressed its hard edges against the ribs as he changed. His secret weapon against Dev for keeping her in check. He patted it fondly. Flat cap next, pulled low across his forehead, changed the shape of his face. He liked that. The jaunty angle made him look harmless. The trousers and shoes he left alone. His own dark slacks and leather brogues would do. The ticket machine came last, slung over one shoulder. The heavy metal weight of it felt good. Could pretend he had a gun, like lads in films, like that Ravenscar bitch. A red scarf hung from a peg. He plucked that off, wound it around his neck. It hit his mouth, made him look stockier, hopefully enough that Hester wouldn't recognize him if she saw him again. Disguise complete, he hoisted the semi-naked ticket collector under the armpits and tossed the man still unconscious to the half-open carriage exit. The soft body tumbled and told soon out of sight along the disappearing length of track. Did he just fucking kill him? I don't think he would survive that. Perhaps the man had survived, or perhaps not. It didn't matter. What did matter is that he would not wake up on the train at an inconvenient time and cause problems. Ramsay checked for the emergency hunting knife strapped on the inside of his leg and relocated it, still sheathed of course, to an inside jacket pocket. Time to find Devon. He paused at the entrance of the connecting passageway before entering the next carriage. First, to listen and then to look. Minimal chatter and nothing of his quarry. Several people tried to show him tickets or buy new ones. Ramsay told them the machine was broken and they left him alone. The next carriage and the one after that were the same, thickly populated with tired, sweaty humans trying to make it home before the start of their pointless holiday. Also notably empty of his sister and her companions. The smell of so many people in close quarters made him glad for the scarf he wore. At least no one tried to buy a ticket. 6 minutes after boarding, Ramsay located his sister. He caught the sound of a child laughing while out in a connecting passageway, mixing with the low, unfeminine pitch of Devon's voice. Alert and wary, he paused by the exit of the fourth carriage. listened at the loosely shuttered door of the fifth carriage. Don't get too comfortable, we're not home and dry yet. A lifting, northern-sounding voice. A lilting, northern-sounding voice. Must be the Ravenscar woman who'd killed his men with such efficacy. Wish I brought more bullets, just in case and all that. Ramsay listened, intrigued. He'd always fancied owning a pistol. Done a bit of target practice for fun once or twice. The paperwork required for them was awkward, though as it would be for any good regular book eater. You're a ridiculously good shot. Devon unmistakably her voice. 4 clean kills in a handful of seconds, all moving targets. Where did you get the gun? He'd heard enough. Had to move quick. Ramsay took out the transmitter, holding it in one hand with his thumb and the button. Would look like a walkie-talkie to a casual observer. The ticket collecting machine he held in the other hand. Trigger finger ready. He opened the shuttered door with an elbow and shuffled in. All 3 of his quarry sat on the floor of the connecting passage between carriages. All 3 looked up sharply as he entered. Hester Ravenscar. He recognized her at once, had studied the files and family photographs to death. Was nondescript, having neither a beautiful face nor an interesting figure. Dressed like a recovering hippie. If he hadn't already seen how deadly she was, he could have dismissed her entirely. The boy Kai was also visually uninteresting. Small, slight, dark-haired, nothing to indicate the true monstrous nature beneath. Devon, though, looked like a poster child for dykes on bikes. Tall and rangy, hacked off hair, all black clothes and far too much leather. Slouched against the wall like some delinquent city youth. A far cry from the lace-skirted girl in braids he recalled from long ago. His sister, blanched with shock as he walked in. Disguises didn't mean much at their level of familiarity. Her gaze dropped to the transmitter held firmly in his fist, and her jaw tightened. "Evening, ladies," Ramsay said, still half buried in a winter scarf. Hat pulled low, almost to the eyebrows. Comical under other circumstances. "I'm afraid we don't allow passengers to sit on the floor in this part of the train. Mind if I move you along into the carriage?" "You two go get seats," Devon said, climbing to her feet. "I'll buy us tickets and catch up in a second." "Did you say we were heading to Edinburgh?" "Edinburgh, yes," said Hester after a pregnant pause, and Ramsay could sense the tension rolling over. Reluctant to share information, he guessed. But she moved off quickly enough with Kai at her heels, probably keen to avoid further questions. When the connecting door shut after them, Ramsay said calmly, "If I were actually hunting you, you'd be finished. You have 10 seconds to give me an explanation for that massacre back there." "How did you even get—" she began, and then wisely checked herself for once, swallowing the question. "Your men attacked us first. What was I supposed to do? Grab her gun? I might as well admit I'm a traitor and working for the families." She looked guiltily over one shoulder, as if the Ravenscar woman might burst through, crying vengeance. "None of that, huh? A simple heads up about what you were doing, where you were going, and who you were with would have been not better. That would have been nice." Oh, God. Ramsay wasn't going to blame his superior in front of her. At the moment, we have an entire squad dead, and fuck knows what will happen to the 2 people I left behind. Again, what was I supposed to do? She hit back. Her gaze kept going toward the transmitter. "Here's a thought. Don't come running after us next time. I didn't know she had a sodding gun in any case." "Has she told you who she is?" Sweat made his palms slick, but he kept a firm grip on the transmitter and a cool 6 feet away from Devon. Couldn't be too sure she wouldn't try something. Or what she wants from you? Obviously, Devon said, clearly annoyed. She's a Ravenscar and is taking us straight to Killock, like you wanted. Isn't that the whole point of me dragging Kai through this hell? It is, yes. He fiddled with the ticket machine. Stupid thing. Hard to work one-handed if he didn't remove his thumb from the transmitter. Where is she taking you? Is Edinburgh your final destination? And what's been agreed? Somewhere in Scotland, that's all I know. I'm sure Edinburgh isn't the final destination, only a place to change over. Leather-clad arms crossed. They're offering me redemption, but I must agree to live under Ravenscar rules. It's complicated. Interesting, he mused. Still, it doesn't matter what they're asking for, because you won't be hanging around or living with them long term, no? This all ends when we find Killock. He finally got the stupid machine to spit out 2 tickets and proffered them carefully across the distance between them. How long to the next stop? What even is the next stop? 18 minutes till we arrive at Berwick-on-Tweed. She snatched the tickets from his grasp. Don't you eat train schedules for local area? Aren't you a sarcastic cow? Ramsey had better things to fill his brain with than train schedules. That was her job. Here's what we do. 5 minutes from now, I'll be pulling the emergency stop and turning off the lights if I can access them. When that happens, convinces Hester Ravenscar the Knights must have made it on board, and that the 3 of you should disembark early. You want us to abandon the train? She said, incredulous. What will you be doing? Making your lie into truth, naturally. Me, my knife, and a carriage of shrieking innocence will give you all the panic stampeding needed to fuel the story of nightly pursuit. Ramsey? How many people are you planning to kill? None, you dolt. Only frighten them enough to get a few running and screaming up and down this train. Like fucking chickens, he thought, with him as the fox. Why? She hissed. What's the point of all this theater? The point of the disruption itself, he said sweetly. You may not trust me at present. No shit! But I'm invested in your success, at least for this moment in time. So ruin Miss Ravenscar's plan, keep her off balance, still get to the secret location, but on our terms, not hers. In short, stay alive, Devon, and stay smart. Remember, Killock didn't send this sister of his because he thought she was incompetent. This cow killed 4 trained men tonight without blinking. Don't let her keep any edge on you. Devon surprised him by sucking in her cheeks and saying, Fine, then we might as well go the extra mile. Make it practically convincing. Send a knight or 2 out to scout for us. Give us boogeymen to hide from and dodge. He nodded again. Not a bad idea. We'll track your phone and send a knight to intercept a pair of you along the road. If I can get one out in time, have a little car chase or something. Ramsey ran his tongue over his teeth. But to keep this one alive, please. I'm tired of cleaning up bodies, and knights are not infinitely expendable. Quite the opposite these days. I can't promise that. Just do your best. Ramsey flicked her forehead, like he had when they were children. She scowled. Don't get any funny ideas about running off with these people and their magic pills, eh? Because I will always catch you when you run. Always. Remember that. She curled her fists, said nothing. Go, he said, waving at the transmitter, before I change my mind on this venture and blow your son into next Thursday. The one security he held against her, the ability to end Kai's life from a distance at the press of a button. And remember, I'm not the only one with a transmitter. Of course I remember. And I was already going. Devon whirled away from him and back toward the carriage, tickets still clutched to her chest. Make it convincing, he called after her. You have a lot riding on this. She didn't look back, but he caught the flinch of her shoulders and was satisfied. Ramsay watched her leave and then drew out his knife, eyed the carriage he'd come through, remembering the smell of them, anticipating their noisy, tiring chaos, the claustrophobic way they'd crash around him. Get on with things, he told himself, and tightened his grip around the hilt. And that's the end of part 11. Holy shit. So it seems like, in a way, Ramsay is still on her side. He's helping her escape, huh? It's interesting. I guess the transmitter is constantly sending like all the conversations communication, and the reason he had to like hold it down was probably like to like, mute it so they would be able to have this conversation without them listening in. How many chapters to go? I don't know for today. I think we have about like another 20 pages or something to go through. We're at page 95 and I think we have to go to like 120. Yeah, we still have like 25 pages to go through. I'll be right back though real quick. I'm gonna take a quick break, stretch and all that, and then I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. How's everyone doing? Doing all right. I feel that we might actually not make it to the end of the act today. I can feel my eyes are giving in a bit, and like all of that, my focus is kind of slipping. I'm not fully awake. Like I've had some rough sleeps again, so we might do like 1 or 2 more acts depending on how long they are. Like 1 or 2 more parts depending on how long they are. We'll see. But yeah, I'm enjoying this book as far so far. We're probably gonna hop on some Celeste after that for sure. Yeah, we might just do like 2 more pots. Be right back. Okay, no worries, Angel. Yeah, we're probably just gonna do like 2. I still need to play the Celeste. It's so good, but it's so fucking tough. It's so hard. All right. We're jumping back again in the next part. Now 8 years ago. So the previous jump back was 7 years ago. So this should still be Devon at the Winterfield Manor. Her kid being 2 years old. So we'll see. We have the quote for this one is, "It was foolish indeed, thus to run farther and farther from all who could help it. As if she could have been seeking a fit spot for the goblin creature to act her own, to eat her in at his leisure. But that is the way fear serves us. It always sides with the thing we were afraid of." By George MacDonald, The Princess and the Goblins. Yeah, I could already tell just by like even reading that. I don't think I can read for much longer today. So wait, let me check something real quick. I'm confused. I'm just reading ahead a little bit on this chapter. So the previous chapter where we went back in time was 7 years ago, and at the end of that, she started running away from Fairweather Mansion after she got brought back because she wanted to see her daughter again and tell her goodbye. This one now, 8 years ago, there should be like a year before that, shouldn't it? So her's still at Winterfield Manor, but it starts off. Pursuit wasn't immediate. For the first half hour, Devon fled blindly through the tangled trees, both elated and unnerved to hear nothing but silence. Before long, she was cut and bruised from stumbles in the woods and very lost. No more going back though. She pushed onward through snow-encrusted trees and mulchy, half-frozen earth and came up against a tall barbed wire fence, the edge of Fairweather Manor. The land beyond was unknown to her. Like, doesn't that sound like it connects right to after she started running, which was 7 years ago, but this is now 8 years ago? I'm confused. The land beyond was unknown to her. No going back. Devon flung herself against the fencing, toes and fingers easily finding purchase, up and over. She landed in an awkward roll on the other side and set off in the snow toward where she thought Birmingham was. A big city surrounded by roads, only a couple of hours' drive. Finding the Winterfield home would surely be a matter of ease. The families were not on her side. This realization struck Devon like a bell ringer with a gong mallet, shaking her all the way through, even as her lungs burned and her feet pounded the underbrush. Nose full of the scent of evergreens and fresh snow. The families were her blood relations, people she loved and had been loved by her entire world. They were now her great enemy. In fact, they always had been. However loving her childhood, her flesh was still theirs, her goods for the selling. Like pigs or chickens raised for slaughter, she had developed affection for her keepers as they for her. But that did not stop her from being consumed. Pig farmers still chewed their bacon with enjoyment. Affection only made cruelty rueful. In the distance behind her trilled a soft, high whistle. Pursuit. Her skin broke into goosebumps, and Devon ran harder. She hadn't done much running about since Salem's birth, but desperation lent her strength. Evasion should still be possible if she could get somewhere with people where the knights might be shy to accost. Except she feared dashing across the moorland, out in the open with knights streaming toward her on motorcycles, dragons clinging to their backs. Here, at least, she could lose them for chunks of time, hide her tracks and her noise in the tangled of frosted woodland. Closer to her town, and she might have made it. As it was, less than 2 hours after leaving the manor, she had knights fanning out on all sides, barely 50 meters away, and Ramsay among them. She couldn't see him, but she'd heard him shouting, knew his voice too well. Other figures darted with furtive strides, all of them black-clad and wearing ubiquitous motorcycle helmets. A snapshot flashed through her brain as she ran. Luton bending over a newborn Salem. The tongue. Anyone checked? Dragons lived at the periphery of her world as voiceless apparitions. She knew them to be twisted, crazed children who sported proboscis instead of book teeth, who hungered for minds instead of books like a kind of watered-down zombie, who lived in a night-run facility somewhere near Oxford because they could not be trusted to resist their own hunger, even with redemption to hand. She knew, too, that they were now wielded by knights to troubleshoot family problems, as an uncle had once put it. Devon, it seemed, was now a family problem, one they had no compunction about solving, and violent or lethal ways should she step out of lines. If a dragon caught her, he'd unfurl a hideous mosquito tongue and stick it down her ear, a gross parody of intimacy, and suck her life, memories, entire psyche away in less than a minute. Ramsay called out something in Latin. The high-pitched whistle sounded again, and fear, like Devon had never known before, riddled her body with sudden weakness. She zigzagged in a blind panic, too breathless to even scream. "Girl, stop!" The closest dragon had a voice like a bullhorn, and he wore no helmet. Veins ran dark beneath his abnormally pale face, the skin pallid from lack of sunlight. So much for voiceless, faceless, or mindless. Fear lent fire to her feet. She didn't stop, choosing instead to sprint across a dry brook and up a crumbling bank. Devon ducked beneath a set of low-hanging branches and crashed straight into a living nightmare. Another mind-eater who had somehow circled in front and now flung himself at her. They both fell to the ground, struggling. He was even taller than she, and more thickly built. Dark eyes bulged, the pupils more pinpricks. He tried to hold her down, spittle flying from parted lips. Lips hiding a proboscis tongue. Revulsion surged into strength, and she headbutted him hard. He howled like a wounded wolf, blood splattering from his nose. Devon shoved him to the side, rolled to her feet, and lost the breath from her lungs as two more dragons barreled over her. Outnumbered 3-1, Devon punched, clawed, kicked with a fierceness that surprised and exhilarated her. She'd wrestled with her brothers as a child, but not for years, and never like this. Fear melted away, freeing her limbs and tightening her reflexes. It wasn't enough. One moment, she was ripping someone's hair out by the fistful while kicking another person in the shins. The next moment, she was somehow down on the ground, the first man kneeling on the chest with his hands around her neck, while the second grabbed her legs and the third pinned her wrists. She never saw the knights arrive, didn't notice them filtering through the trees or hear Ramsay shouting "Locum tenentem" to the dragons. A snapping sound, like an oversized rubber band following by a pinch in her chest. A sky's worth of lightning bolts flooded Devon's body. Pain prickled through her muscles. It felt like stings of acid winding through her flesh. The longest 5 seconds of her life before the taser burst finally ended. Her mouth was full of blood. She'd bitten her tongue. None of her limbs worked, and wooziness crept into her skull. Someone gave a sharp whistle, and the dragons withdrew, making grumpy, huffing noises. "I'm sorry, Dev." Ramsay came to stand over her. Taser gun still pointed her way. "You have to learn. This is your lesson. If you run, we will always catch you. I will always catch you." Devon stared up at him, crucified by a mix of emotions. She could have been getting up to flee, but lethargy weighed her bones, and her body cringed and remembered agony. Was a taser supposed to hurt so much? Or was this a particular agony that only book eaters felt? Back in the day, they had ways of dealing with girls like this, said a green-eyed knight, stepping into her field of vision. Fit girls with ankle tags and all sorts. Maybe your sister needs one of those, huh? Nah, she won't do it again. Ramsay nudged her with his toe. Will you, Dev? She tried to speak. Couldn't. Tried to spit. Couldn't do that either. Breathing was her challenge. Nights filtered through the trees around her, soundless and eerie. No, not soundless. She was losing sound and sight. Dizziness encroached, bringing blackness with it. She woke the next morning and lay in bed, feeling sick. Someone had finally changed her out of the silly party frock into an aunt's prim nightdress. The collar itchy around her neck with unnecessary lace. A part of her wanted to get up, try again, run for the hills a second time. Her body refused to budge. She was she was weak from not eating and from too much running. Weak too with fear and trauma. Dragons were a terrifying thing. To her shame, she still hadn't moved several hours later when Ike came by, carrying a selection of books on a platter. I hear you have not eaten since returning to us from Winterfields yesterday, he said. Can I persuade you to take some sustenance? He wasn't calling her princess, at least. And she would never again call him uncle either. Devon remained curled in her bed and staring straight ahead, ignoring the proffered food. She did not want to eat anything he had handled. Ike set the platter down untouched. I am sorry about the hunt, but you left us no choice. Devon found it hard to care about his apology. What happens now? Will you put a tag around my ankle? Track me like a wild animal? He blinked. A tag around. Oh, good Lord. No one has done that in years. In any case, it was only ever knights who resorted to such barbaric practices. You are still a daughter of this house. Your daughter? Just bloody say it. I'm your daughter. And will be treated as such. He couldn't say it. Only looked at her tight-lipped and brow furrowed. The great fortress she could not crack. Bastard, she whispered. As for what happens, we leave you to consider your actions and your options, said Ike with skin-crawling gentleness. You have one more marriage contract to fulfill and one more child to offer up. I don't want to get married again. The idea of a second wedding made her bile rise. Once it had given her goosebumps of excitement. Devon, he interlaced his fingers, looking vexed. You do not have a choice. None of us do. The survival of a species depends on every eater playing their part. Do you understand how few fertile women remain of our kind? How difficult it is to negotiate marriages that not only benefit the 6 families, but prevent too much inbreeding? A spark of fire flared in her chest. Easy for you to say. It's not your body and your child who gets taken away. You would do no different in my place. His calm assurance was steeped in an arrogance so thick she could only be dumbfounded at the assertion. If it's any consolation, it will not be like this forever. When we start rolling out the IVF treatments, we will no longer need the knight to arrange and enforce marriages. The next generation of girls, your daughter included, will find things a little easier. Someone knocked before she could attempt to formulate an answer. Ike twisted in his seat. Ah, yes, speaking of your daughter, I have arranged a guest to come and visit. Devon had barely enough time to sit up straight before Luton Winterfield walked in, unaccompanied aside from his formidable manners and well-pressed suit. You! Devon struggled to keep her face straight and her reeling emotions under control. She was torn between demanding her return her daughter, begging him for correspondence, and trying to rip out his throat. Indecision snarled up the words in her chest. I'll see myself out. Ike sketched a swift bow and left. Luton looked at her very carefully, as if they had only met for the first time and he wished to memorize her features. I suppose you hate me? There was nothing to say to that. She gave his question the silent contempt it deserved. I am sorry about this business with Salem, Luton said, as if they were discussing real estate. But then, he was a surveyor, out in the human world. If it's a consolation, the first child was the hardest, or so I'm told. The next will be easier. I don't want it to be easier, she said, finding her voice again. I want to raise my daughter. They all loved apologizing, she thought bitterly. She'd had 3 apologies today, still counting. Didn't stop anyone behaving abominably. I am well aware of what you want. Luton held out a hefty pendant on a steel chain produced from the depths of a pocket. I brought you something. Take it if you wish, or leave it if you don't. The pendant spun, catching the light. A thick, circular disc with embossed carvings on the outside. Pride fought against curiosity. Curiosity won, and Devon snatched it off him. Her nail found a catch. A locket. She flicked it open. Not a pendant or a locket at all, but a compass, and a beautiful one. The needle wavered uncertainly. On the inside of the lid, someone had fitted a picture of Salem. It must have been recent, perhaps a couple of months before her 3rd birthday. She was sitting out in the gardens that Devon knew so well, smiling and adorable. Sunlight caught the elfin features. The exterior pattern is the Winterfield coat of arms. Though we have some differences in personality, you have performed your duties well and provided my estate with a healthy daughter of whom I am very fond. He cleared his throat. I am told you are struggling with the transition home, in part due to my handling, and I thought it might be appropriate to provide you with a memento to make things easier. Devon snicked the compass shut, fingers curled tightly around it. It took away my child, and you want me to be grateful because you've given me a trinket in exchange? Fuck you. You're not forgiven. His eyebrows rose. Well, is that so? Well, if you do not want the compass. I didn't say that. Devon made a deliberate show of dropping it into her nightshirt pocket. Someday I'm going to come back, hang it around your neck, and walk off with my daughter. That is pure fantasy and won't happen, he said with a certainty that burned her to the marrow. Here's what will happen. I'm going to tell Salem about you and keep your memory alive. What are you? I'm going to tell Salem about you, he repeated. I'll give her pictures of you, since she misses you very badly right now, and I will tell her that her mother will come back to see her one day, but only if her mother loves her enough. For a 10th birthday, perhaps you'll be well out of your next marriage by then. He waved a finger. Behave and play your part, Devon, and you will make that rendezvous with Salem. But if you back out for your 2nd marriage and cause trouble, I will be forced to tell your daughter that you do not love her and do not wish to see her. You're lying. A desperate kind of terror seized Devon's joints, eroding her earlier fury and courage. Just like you were lying before. Believe what you like. I came here to do you a favor, not field your paranoid accusations. Luton got up and walked out. She shrieked curse words after him, aware of how feral she sounded. No one took any notice. Outside her room, someone drew the bolts to lock the door in place. Voices murmured as her guards exchanged places. Everything locked down, closing down. Her pitiful escape attempt had ended. No drawn out fight or even a last stand, simply hunted, bagged, and dragged back. She was becoming the wrong kind of princess, the sort that fell in with goblins and got locked away in towers. Shame crept through her veins, and grief hit like a mind-eater's punch. How stupid she had been to think anyone would listen. How naive they must think her, an idiot girl believing whatever lie the patriarchs offered up. Her threat to Luton was an empty thing carrying no weight, which she could not enforce. Devon the daft, Devon the dolt, Devon the deceived. The stitches that held her life together were collapsing into dust. The families were strong, entrenched, practiced. She was nothing, head full of their carefully selected books, and empty of practical knowledge. Dull realization grew around her like choking vines. The only way out was to behave. Every time she defied the family, someone else paid the price. She still didn't win by following the rules, but at least she lost less badly. Be passive, be good, bear the next child, get a modicum of freedom. And even if they did not allow her to visit Salem, she would still have more freedom after her marriages were completed and some of the duties settled on her shoulders were lifted. That meant she would not see Salem this year, or the next, or even the next. Awful, almost beyond enduring. But the alternative was worse. To act too boldly, inviting more restrictions, to run the risk that Luton would make good with his promise and convince Salem that Devon did not wish to see her. If Devon ever wished to see her daughter at all, she would bear the misery, the heartache, the impatience of her need. She curled up on the floor, hands locked around the compass, and willed herself to breathe. And that's the end of part 12. All right. Yeah, I think we can do one more part and then I don't know. We'll do something else. So part 13 was in the present day. It's called In the Company of Wolves. The quote is, "But curing mind-eaters of their hunger did nothing to solve the fertility problems that have plagued their species. For that problem, the book eaters did what they had always done best, encourage human technology to advance from the shadows and then burrow from it. The basics of IVF they mastered long ago, easy to do when one can learn human medical science just by having a hearty lunch of textbooks. But the great difficulty in using such technology lies in adapting it to tricksy eater biology and putting it into practice safely. What kind of world will it be? I wonder when book eaters can freely have children? A terrible question for the future." By Amaranda Patel, Paper and Flesh, A Secret History. Go! Devon half shoved, half barreled Hester and Kai toward the nearest train exit. She'd gotten back to the carriage where Kai and Hester were seated, and had just enough time to say, "I think I've seen lights on the train," when the engine had ground to a halt. The lights had failed almost straight away. Shortly after, Ramsey had gone to work with his knife, rousing fear and horror in human passengers who in turn had fled blindly through the now pitch-black carriages, crying murder and seeking help. With all his antics, Devon had encountered no difficulty of convincing Hester and her son that the Knights had gotten aboard the train, or that all three of them should abandon the journey. They staggered out, along with a spill of other people, into a frosty Northumbrian night amidst the sprawling, empty fields, wild fields. From behind them on the train, several people were screaming. The sky above hung malignant, clouded over and moonless, perfectly atmospheric. Hester stumbled, falling against Devon's shoulders. They steadied each other and kept running through the fall, to the tall, half-frozen grass, trying to put distance between themselves and the beleaguered 10:15 train. They'd gone perhaps 200 meters when Hester exclaimed, "Wait!" and jerked to a stop. "My handbag is missing. I don't have it on me." Devon twisted around. "What's so important about a handbag?" "Is that rhetorical?" Hester had already swiveled around to squint across the 300 meters of wild fields. The train was barely visible from the gentle swell of the lands. My wallet and mobile phone and my gun was in there. And the bag itself cost 400 quid. I suppose that doesn't matter." Her aggrieved tone suggested that it did in fact matter. "The biggest loss is the gun. It was an heirloom." "Do you want us to try and go back?" Devon said, looking uneasily at the train. Ramsey, she knew, would not take kindly to seeing them return. "No, not worth the risk." Her hands clenched briefly and then uncurled. "Still, I had pencils in there. My sketchbook too." "Sketchbook?" Devon said, nonplussed. She'd never heard of a book eater drawing. That was technically possible. They just weren't creative in that way as a species. "Were they your drawings? Was it important stuff?" Hester gave a deprecatory laugh. "No, I guess not." She scraped up her loose hair, wild from running, and tied it back with savage efficiency. "Let's just go before I change my mind." "About that," Kai said. "Where exactly are we headed?" "The closest town, which is probably Alnwick." Hester plucked at her mud-speckled skirts. "Get there, get transport, and nip across the border into Scotland proper." I think what he meant was, "Where's our end point?" Devon said. "Which bit of Scotland are we going to?" "It's not safe for you to know yet." Hester started trudging away. Devon exchanged glances with Kai, and he shrugged. The three of them straggled through the scratchy nettles and overgrown fields, the musky scent of soggy earth and tangled weeds clogging up Devon's nostrils. He sneezed twice. No snow out here, just chilly and damp. After another half-kilometer, they reached a 2-lane road that wound like a curving ribbon of black ice. Devon peered down each direction, flexing her still bare toes under the slicky frozen road. No people in pursuit, but also no cars or houses. Hester squinted at a road sign. "Looks like this is A1086. If we have any sense at all, we should be steering clear of the town and walking to the next place along." "The next town?" Kai wilted. "I'm tired now. Do we have to walk all night?" "He's right," Devon said. "We need sleep, all of us. I've been up for more than a day and not eaten nearly enough for a long trek. She was indeed bone tired, but beyond that, Devon also wanted time to observe this woman and to learn more about what might await them at the Ravenscar household. The only concrete assurance they'd been offered was a single dose of redemption, while the rest was a blank unknown. It was well and good for Ramsay to not give a damn for whatever lay in store, but it wasn't his neck on the line. It shouldn't take all night to get there, Hester said, plucking at a loose thread of her sleeve. What do you mean, shouldn't? How far are we going? I'm not supposed to tell you where we're going until we're there. Uncertainty made her seem smaller. It isn't safe. Oh, for heaven's sake. Listen, you're used to caution, I understand that. But we have to work together right now. How far are we going? Will you tell me that? Not where, just how far. About 80 miles, said the other woman grudgingly, or guardedly. Devon ran a hand over her face. And you think 80 miles won't take all night? Well, obviously it would if we walked it, but it's a short drive in a car. Someone was supposed to meet us in Edinburgh once we get there. She grimaced. I'd bring them to chicken, but my phone was in that sodding bag. We're nowhere near Edinburgh, nor is Edinburgh necessarily safe for us anymore. In the here and now, we are very much without a car, which makes 80 miles one hell of a walk. Do you have a better idea? The woman said, exasperated. I suppose you think we should bed down here and camp outside. Not outdoors, indoors. Kai pointed his ragged sleeves, billowing in a sharp winter wind. There's a better breakfast down the road. We could go there, then find another way to travel in the morning. Both women looked at him. Devon said, have you been here before? Sort of. The lawyer stayed once for a walking holiday in the moors. He traveled loads in these parts. Hester raised an eyebrow. The lawyer? B&B sounds good. Devon didn't feel like explaining the lawyer or any of Kai's other half-remembered victims. Let's go. I want to get off my feet. Hester threw up her hands. I don't have any money. My wallet was in that purse. I've got a few quid. A few? How much is it? Enough to cover us. Devon reckoned 20 grand could cover most B&B stays. All right, I give up. The two of you are so determined to stop, so we'll stop. Where do we go from here? I know where it is, I said. Not far, I won't miss it. They set off again, this time through half-frozen grass and following the line on the fence. Devon walked alongside Hester, while up ahead, Kai navigated terrain that only a dead man inside his skull remembered. They'd know soon enough if his stolen memories were still accurate. I'm glad you're not a family trap, Hester said, face obscured by curling hair. There was a possibility that crossed my mind. The night's still young, Devon said with a lightness that belied her own internal cringing. Hester didn't laugh. Killock, my brother, had a theory that you were both a setup, that Kai wasn't really your child. He's mine. The whole thing was a ploy for the families to access redemption. She flushed. Anyway, it feels silly now to say that. 5 minutes around the pair of you and that bond is clear as day. And he's got your features. He carries to look better, Devon said wryly. Can I ask something? Coop, I understand. Young men are ambitious and like to be patriarchs. But what did your siblings gain by running off to hide in the wilderness? You're not selling redemption anymore or making any money, which must be tough. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't understand why Killock didn't just stay put and you lot with him. The other families wouldn't have really cared about your change of power and your manner. I'm afraid Killock will have to explain that to you in person. It's extremely complicated and delicate. I guess, Devon said, annoyed and frustrated. Every time she thought their conversation was going somewhere, it was. It'll make sense when he does, I promise. The Ravenscar woman stepped over a patch of frozen mud, gaze on the uneven ground in front of her. She said, almost as an afterthought, "You're not at all what I was expecting." "Aye," Devon said. "And what were you expecting?" "Another me, I suppose." Before Devon could get her head around the cryptic answer, Kai turned around and called over his shoulder, "I think I see it! That place just ahead." They all halted to have a good look. Allendike Farm sprawled off to just a few roads. Sprawled just off the road, only a few hundred meters from the small now row of houses. A stone cottage crouched beneath its heavy tile roof like a squat gray turtle god of darkness. That's a description. A squat gray turtle god of darkness. Okay. But it was prettily maintained. Quiet and clean, with a hint of that British fall quaintness that such places traded in. The hour was closing in on midnight by the time Devon stalked up the gravel path with crunching footsteps, Kai at her side and Hester trailing a little behind. The entrance wasn't locked and the lights were still on, but no one was at the desk. Unsurprising given the hour. The owner, a small farmed woman called Nadia, was not pleased to be woken. She was even less pleased to see a gaggle of battered, unkempt people demanding a room. Devon's bare feet got a shocked side-eye. But she had no good reason to turn them out, especially when Devon paid double for the hassle. Money had a way of curing human resentment. 20 minutes later, and 100 quid poorer, the three of them were piling wearily into a cottage across the courtyard. The room held 2 double beds freshly made up and decorated in a pastiche of rustic life that Devon found baffling. Allendike was already an actual farm, where I pretend to be a fantasy one. "Who's sleeping where?" Devon said, even as Kai flung himself onto one of the beds. "Hey, take those shoes off." In a minute, he melted into the pillow with a groan. "I can take the couch if you want the other bed," Hester offered. "You look like you need the rest." "Don't be daft. I'll bunk with Kai. I've done it often enough. I'm calling dibs on the shower, though." She dug into the bathroom. "Don't take too long," Hester called from outside. "There's only one toilet, you know." Devon rolled her eyes, then stripped off and ducked under the fall of icy water, just long enough to rinse the grime from her hair and skin. Her feet were foul, but there was nothing to scrub except a single bar of dried out soap that crumbled into gritty chunks when she picked it up. So much for scrub. She toweled off and climbed back into her dirty clothes with reluctance. Well, she'd worn worse. Clean-ish, or at least cleaner, Devon stepped from the bathroom. to the relief of a frantic Hester, who promptly took her place and shut the door with pointed force. Kai lay curled on the bed, fast asleep. His shoes were still on. She pried them off and tucked them in, tattered clothes and all. The boy reeked of sweat and dirt. He'd need a shower too. Patches of eczema married the joint between foot and ankle, and also the crooks of his elbows. She wondered if taking redemption again would help or worsen his skin. Decided it didn't matter. Careful, so carefully as to not wake him, Devon tugged up at the edge of his shirt, revealing the smooth scar on his abdomen, barely an inch across, little more than a silver line of skin. No flashing lights or uncomfortable lumps he'd ever complained about. No outward sign of the tiny surgically implanted device embedded in his peritoneal cavity. Lying to him was wrong, but it seemed too heavy and strange for a 5-year-old who already carried the sins of other people and many victims on his shoulders. He had enough to worry about. Sometimes she wondered if the device was really there, or had somehow deactivated. It seemed so improbable as a concept. Reality always reasserted itself. Devon had seen the surgery done, watched the stitches put in afterward. Her son carried death with him at all times, and did not know it. And if she ever faltered, she only needed to think about Ramsey. Go, before I change my mind and blow your son into next Thursday. Every time he threatened Kai's life, as he had tonight, and no doubt would again, she swallowed down the boiling stew of her overcooked rage and tried to play polite. He could end her son with the flick of a button. Scuffling sounds came from the bathroom. Devon dropped the edge of Kai's shirt and repositioned herself less suspiciously, just in time for Hester to emerge. In the space of 10 minutes, the other woman had tamed her hair and uncreased her clothes. An impressive skill. You left this on the sink, by the way. Hester held out the compass. Oh. Devon snatched it back with lightning speed. Careless, so careless. Christ, she really was tired. Thanks, she added lamely. No problem. The Raven Scar woman sat on the other bed, the gap narrow enough their knees knocked, and began brushing out wet curls of hair with her fingers. Let's drink it. Family heirloom? Memento of my daughter. Hester paused, mid-finger comb. Oh, I'm sorry, I wouldn't have picked it up if... It's fine. Devon opened the compass to display it. Have a look if you want. Everyone should see her daughter. She's lovely, Hester said, subdued. Of course, all little children are beautiful. Devon snapped the compass shut and wound the chain around her palm. Adults, not so much. We've done too many things in our lives to be beautiful. An uncomfortable beat of silence, and then Hester gestured at the mini fridge. Do you want a drink? Her laugh sounded anxious. Pretty sure they have wine in that thing. I'd like that. Hester got up, dug through the mini fridge, and pulled out a bottle of cheap white. Can I ask you something? Were you happy as a child, growing up in your family? Yes. Didn't it? Devon didn't even have to think about her answer. I was really happy. I had freedom. Thought I did. Maybe it would be better to say I truly enjoyed doing the things I was allowed to do. I know everything was twisted and perverse by the end, but I still wish I could have given Kai some of that joy. Morse, heather, foxes, otters, sunshine and snow, barefoot in a thunderstorm, all those things existed and had been hers, yet she had managed only to pass on a legacy of pain. Makes sense. Hester filled a couple of B&B mugs since there were no glasses. I would have liked to have met Happy Devon, I think. Your own life isn't exactly spun sugar either. I hardly talked about myself. Hester set down the bottle, picked up the cups. It's what you don't say. You're too observant for your own good then. Hester sat beside her this time, almost shoulder to shoulder, a mug in each hand. Her proximity was a pleasant solidity. Here, take one. Thanks. The ceramic handle sweated condensation against her palm. So, do you have kids? No, never had children. What? Really? Devon raised an eyebrow. The older woman was her age and a book eater. So, how'd you avoid that one? Random chance. Hester took a long drink, finishing most of it at one go. All healthy family women suffer from premature ovarian failure as a default. In any case, my failure came in childhood instead of in my late 20s. Devon didn't trust herself to answer. She was afraid to open her mouth and end up saying, "How lucky are you?" when it wasn't actually fair. She didn't know enough about Hester's life to judge whether infertility was lucky or not. She had no right to project that kind of assumption on someone else. Anyway, I feel so silly. I should have known you've had more than one child, the Ravenscar woman was saying. Where is she, your daughter? Birmingham. I haven't seen her in 7 years. I'm so sorry, that must be hard, Hester said low. She drained the last of her wine. I hope you don't mind me saying, but there's a strange comfort in knowing that you miss your girl. I don't remember my mother well, but I like the idea that she is missing me somewhere. Me too, Devon admitted. The response felt inadequate. Thousands of books eaten, and she still lacked the language to say something about her own matriarch. How did one give shape to absence, fill a black hole with light? As a child, she'd imagined what it would be like to meet her mother. As a young bride, pregnant and glowing, that hypothetical scenario had expanded into a fully fledged fantasy, one where Devon could envision reuniting with Amberly, the pair of them bonding over their shared experiences. These days, she didn't like to think of it at all. She wasn't ready for the experience of encountering her mother in the flesh. She would never be ready. Just as well, it was unlikely to ever happen. When the silence grew too strong, Devon broke it down by saying, "Are you close to Killock? Do you know him well?" Sort of. Hester yawned into her palm. I suppose I know him as well as anyone. He was a gentle boy and a good brother when we were growing up. Would you not describe him that way now? Devon said, feeling her way cautiously. Not really, no. I wish he listened more. Hester looked tired, or perhaps it was just the wine. Either way, her eyes were drifting, closed, small forms slumping. Sometimes he frightens me. What do you mean? No answer. She looked down. Hester had passed out, her head still on Devon's shoulder. Never mind, he said, feeling oddly protective. She eased the Ravenscar woman to the nearby bed and plucked the wine-stained cup from her lethargic fingers, stashing it on the side table. I think, Devon said, that I'm not going to like your brother very much. Hester slept on, breathing deep. Time to complete her yearly vigil for Salem. She went to stand by the window, head pressed against the window frame, and flicked the compass open. The faded picture of a 3-year-old girl peeked out. The vigil was never anything except painful, and this year was particularly excruciating. Somewhere to the south, her daughter would be rising in a few hours, with a birthday party and pretty celebrations to mark turning 10 years of age. 10 years old. The birthday Devon was supposed to be turning up for, according to Luton's agreement. And she would be absent, having abandoned one child to save another. No doubt Salem's father would relish the moment, she thought with bitterness. But none of Devon's choices had included the possibility of an ideal solution and the conditions required for her to keep that promise. And the conditions that required for her to keep that promise would have meant giving up Kai for dead, or worse. This was the best she could do. Her daughter would have to wait. I am so sorry, but I can't see you after all, she whispered to the darkness, breath frosting on the unglazed windows. I'll come back for you when I can. She squeezed the disc until the ridges dug red lines into her fingers. Happy birthday, Salem. Stillness entwined with her weariness, a particular kind of exhaustion that seemed years and years deep. Unwilling to disturb Kai or to invade Hester's personal space, Devon left her companions to their beds. She crammed her tall frame onto the faux rustic sofa and fell asleep. And that's the end of part 13. And with that, that's gonna be the end for today. We are like one part and like 10 pages away from finishing the act, but I just can't. I'm really struggling to keep it up right now. But I am still very much enjoying this book so far. It's very cool. Very nice. Fuck Luton. Fuck the families. All that stuff, you know. Those people and their traditions are bullshit. And stupid. And should not exist. Alright. We're gonna be doing a little bit of Celeste. Hopefully I can clear out 8B today. That's what I want to do. How much is my phone charged? Okay, my phone's full. Good. Because I need the cable for my controller. All right. There we go. there we go. All right, guys, are you ready? I am very much looking forward to doing this because goddamn. So that's just fun. Even though it is super difficult, I'm very much looking forward to continuing it. Even if we're only gonna be doing a little bit today, we're not gonna be doing a lot with it. Because for that, I am too tired. All right, let's see. There we go. Okay, everything works. Let me put the game up a little bit, and then we close this. And we turn this off. There we go. This is gonna be, I think, one of the most difficult parts of the game, apart from chapter 9. I heard things about 8B that apparently is like very bad. So we'll see how it goes. I'll be right back while it's loading in. Okay, yeah, I'll be back in a second. And then we shall die a few more 100 times, I guess. I'm back. Here we go, I guess. See how this goes. Hi birdie. That is not a good sign that you also, okay. Oh, what the fuck? Oh my god, that is the first room? Yep, this is gonna be fun. Okay. Oops. Oh boy. I don't know when to time these jumps. Man, this is... Ugh. Oh god, this is... What the fuck? Yeah, this is still core mechanics, obviously, so we don't get our dashes back. Huh. Could I just... Oh my god. How am I supposed to dash across this? What the fuck? Lily, are you still sure you want to play this?